Good afternoon. This is the 31st Lap Live coming to you from Finger Lakes Speedworld here at the Finger Lakes Mall in Auburn, New York. And we're going to jump right into it. The only thing that we didn't do was set the camera. You want to give that thing a quick little twist this way? Wanted to make sure we got all the race car, and there we go. So the car that's hanging out behind us is the sprint car that Erik Karlsen drove last year, and this year unveiling the car early, getting ready to go. Another campaign at Land of Legends Raceway, 360s. What are we doing?
Yeah, so we did the 360 deal last year. Had a lot of fun, did a lot of touring. So that was fun, but it's a lot of time on the road. So this year the 305 class is really coming back. So we're actually going to have two cars. We're going to run every Saturday night at Canandaigua, and then we'll have the 360 that you see behind us here to run kind of when Canandaigua isn't running, and we'll run both cars when the 360s are there as well.
So you went from, this is going to be kind of cool, we're going to get into the 305s. Now you've got two sprint cars sitting in the garage, and your brother, right, been toying with the sportsman car.
My cousin.
Your cousin, I'm sorry, your cousin.
Yep. So yeah, I mean,
it's a very extensive operation now.
Well, so there's actually 5 cars sitting at home. So there's a twin to this car, and then there's a twin to the 305 car. So, and then on top of that, Dad's building a vintage car that he's going to play with later this year as well. So it's been a busy off season for sure. Number one, deciding what we're going to do, and two, let's say, managing and getting all the cars ready to go.
Now, the last time we talked, there was always this prevailing wind that maybe Dad would possibly get back in the car, but he was always adamantly no, but yes, he wants to, but always no. He's building a vintage car.
Yes, yeah. So last year he ran the wingless show at Weedsport. So we talked him into doing it, and I don't know if he got the budget in, but he didn't not like it. So
right.
he's building the vintage wingless car, and he's going to want to run it again. So the USAC guys are coming to Weedsport, so I can imagine him running it there. It's going to be a special car. It'll look like an old 60s Roadster, so it's going to look neat. So I'm trying to talk him into now doing a wing 305 deal, maybe a couple times at Canandaigua in the spare car. So
right.
We'll see, but I'd picture him. He'll get back in again.
How's the weekend been so far? I mean, you got a sweet spot in center court. Center court is mobbed. There's a ton of cars here jammed in the middle. The mall's packed back to end to end, both directions. What's the weekend been like so far?
Been really busy. Been really good. The mall, I mean, there's been a lot more people than I was expecting, which is nice. Really good turnout. Good to talk to all the fans and see everybody here before the season while the cars still look good and aren't all beat up. So, no, it's been a really fun time.
How about for the 360 transition? Moving out of the 305s at Canandaigua and jumping up into the 360s. How did that flow for you? And what did you learn this year that's going to help make you guys better off for next?
We learned that they're drastically different. So we thought we could transfer a lot of the stuff from the 305 into the 360, and that wasn't the case at all. They're pretty polar opposites. So we struggled really hard, really bad, the first half of last year with the 360. I mean, we couldn't figure it out. Just couldn't figure it out.
Right.
And then midway through the season, actually going into Brewerton, we said, okay, we're going to do something that we don't think is going to work because everything we thought that will work doesn't.
Right.
So we changed it up, made the car super loose, and it actually worked really well. Ended up won the heat race that night. So we learned a lot, and all that we learned towards the end of the season we can apply into the season this year.
The heat win must have felt like it was a feature win.
Well, it was, because we went from struggling hard and to all of a sudden so we started on the pole, we drew it, and we're like, man, all right, well, we may have a shot at qualifying tonight. That's
right.
Where we kind of started things out, and then it turned into, we started, and first lap in, all right, we're leading. All right, 4 laps in, we're still leading. And then it's like, wow, maybe we actually have a decent setup tonight. So, yeah, that was a huge confidence booster. That was definitely well needed after the first half of the year.
Sure. The first half of the year, fraught with its challenges. At any point, did you think maybe you had missed your calling and 305 was where you needed to stay?
No, I mean, we knew we could do it. We just had to figure out how to do it. I mean, the setup's a setup. We just knew that we didn't have the setup yet. I mean, car-wise, we got good car, we have good equipment. Our sponsors made sure, that I have good stuff. We just needed to have the setup there. The speed, that's really was the big differential, is how much faster they are. And that faster they are and how much harder they corner. So you just have to have the setups adjust for that.
Well, you can drive these in so much harder than you can drive a 305 just because it's carrying more speed. At the same time, you alluded to setup. It would seem that because you're underpowered in the 305 that you have to make sure that you're spot on with your setup. Otherwise, you're going to be out to lunch in a hurry.
Yeah.
What's that setup dialogue back and forth between the 305 and the 360? Do you have to be dead on your marks with your setup, or do you have more forgiving because you've got more horsepower in the 360?
Yeah, I'd say that the 360 is actually a little more forgiving. You can make harsher adjustments with it because now you can adjust your weight on the track. So there's a huge crutch that you can help make changes on the fly when you're running versus the fixed wing with the 305. And then the power. So if you're tight, well, you can use that motor to help break it free. You can do more things with the 360 than you can with the 305. Plus the 305, the motors, everybody's almost identical. So it's a lot tighter of a competition in the 305.
You got 4 sprint cars at home?
Yeah, 4.
Sounds like you got room for one of them to hold a 410.
Yeah. No, not yet.
No.
I mean, it'd be fun. I want to drive one someday. But the 360, that's plenty of tar for us for now. Plus the 410s, I mean, we don't like traveling. I work, so it's tough to make it to a 410 show. So now we got to go to Pennsylvania, and someday. It'll happen someday, but no time soon.
All of you work and have demands at work. It's not like a job that you could just, I'm working at Subway and I could just bang in or whatever. It's serious careers. How has that been as your schedule evolved and you're taking a little bit more time off with the racing? Your employers across the board, have they been pretty into it and supportive?
Luckily, GW List, my boss, he's really supportive of the racing. He's worked with me a lot. It's been tough, like getting this car ready for the show, and I've been in Florida 3 of the past 6 weeks on projects for work. So just finding time to get the car ready is more of a challenge now. I mean, got to travel for work. Hey, you got to travel for work.
Right.
And then it makes it tough a little bit.
Do you like this stuff?
I love it. I love it. I love what I do at work. I love racing. I love the people all the friends I have through racing. I mean, it's great. Racing's a lifestyle. It really is. And
it's a lifestyle. I haven't heard it quite phrased like that,
yep.
but yeah, it's true. Because it's every waking moment, every free penny is all going into that, whether it's to look good on the track, whether to go fast on the track, or whether to be part of something like this that the sponsors are going to embrace.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, a lot of people don't realize, you just park the car in the trailer and the next week you show up and try it again. Well, there's some classes you can do that with. Sprint cars aren't one of those classes. I mean, you say the time in the off season, it takes a lot of work, all the maintenance. I mean, they're hard on equipment, so you got to check everything. It's the time commitment, and then now the time that you spend with your friends and your family and your sponsors and fellow competitors, it makes you like a family, and that's really what is fun about it.
You kind of hit on something there. Checking everything over is more, I guess, maniacal the 360 is over the 305. Are you finding that your maintenance program was forced to improve?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it definitely was. I mean, 360, you had a ton more power, a ton more torque. Torque's the big thing. Torque is hard on drive lines. Yes. So 360 definitely requires more maintenance, different drive line styles. We use different couplers and things like that in the 360. So it's a lot more maintenance for sure.
Did you ever, when you started toying around with this, it ended up with the 305 was, okay, this is cool, we're getting into it, you've got the racing background of the family. Did you ever think you'd come to a point where you're going to have 4 sprint cars?
No, never. No. Last year we took a picture in the driveway of them all lined up, and we're like, wow.
How did this happen?
We went from a quarter midget in the back of an El Camino when I was 5 to this giant trailer and 4 cars. Like, what has happened? But I wouldn't trade it for nothing either. I mean, it's great. I enjoy it. It's fun. Being out there in the garage, spending time with Dad. I mean, I certainly don't regret a penny of it.
Are all the sprint cars then yours, or is your dad going to jump in one periodically? Cousins, is any of that going to rotate through?
Definitely. So we're going to have, like I said, a spare car for each, and the spare 305 will definitely have some different people in it throughout the season. I don't want to allude to quite who yet, but yeah, there'll be different pilots of the second 360 or 305 car Canada with.
Is that Canandaigua deal? Some major changes over there at Land of Legends Raceway. Ownership changes with Paul Cole coming in. He's already promised a bunch of different contingency programs and things along those lines. How much communication have you had with Paul in terms of this class, with the 305 class specifically, other races where the 360s are going to be involved, and what's happening just across the board over there at Land of Legends?
Paul's the best thing, in my opinion, that's happened to Canandaigua in a long time. I mean, the previous promoter, I can count on probably 2 fingers the amount of times I actually had a more than one word conversation with him. Right. And Paul, I can't count on both hands the amount of times we've talked personally on the phone in the past 2 months. Sure. I mean, he cares what all the drivers, and not just sprint cars, anybody. Doesn't matter what you run. He wants to know what you think and what you want to see at the track. And that's what's huge to be able to have success. People come to the races whether to be entertained by sitting in the stands, whether they like the hot dogs that you serve, or whether they like driving and they like the payout. And he's doing his best to make everybody happy. And Paul is a great guy. His whole crew is a great guy. He's got a great team with him. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this year goes.
I think there's a lot of good things happening over there right now. I thought it was great that Land of Legends Raceway decided to come and be part of this, and then Weedsport, they got off the fence and decided they ended up coming and being part of Finger Lakes Speedworld this year. CRSA Sprints and Patriot Sprint Tour, both of them coming and being part. Center Court is full of sprint cars, and we're really in more modified country than we are sprint car territory. But the turnout right now that we've got here is predominantly sprint cars.
It is.
The couple sprint car challenges on the schedule for Land of Legends this year. CRSA going to come in a couple times. What is that going to make you have to do? Do you have to change anything to be compliant with CRSA rules with your 305 or with your 360? You're gonna have to go backwards compatible. You're gonna have to get more stuff in order to run with them versus say Patriot Sprint Tour or Lucas Oil ESS.
No, so with Mike Emhoff running helping to promote the 305 deal at Canandaigua, it's really worked out quite well. So now their rules are aligned, I'll call it, with what the 305 rules used to be at Canandaigua.
Okay.
So there will be no special things we have to do, which is nice. That's one thing that all of us drivers stress is we don't want to have to do special things to be able to run a 305 at Canandaigua at any time. And they listen to that and they change the rules to make that happen. So it's really easy to run both classes.
So the 360 again, traveling thing. Are you going to be loyal to one particular tour? Are you just going to try and run where you know that you guys are going to perform well, and seek out the low stress weekend so that it'll be more fun when the 360's out there? Are you going to try and travel a little bit with the CRSA?
We're going to do 360 shows that are local, whether it's Patriots or ESS, doesn't matter. I mean, I like both groups just as much. Have friends in both. Both promoters are great guys for those. Just whatever's closer to home and not on a Saturday night. So if the Patriots are closer, we'll run with them. If ESS is closer, we'll run with them. To
backtrack, loyal. I don't want to try and upset the apple cart for anybody. Exclusive, I think, might be a better way to say it.
Yeah.
That we certainly don't want that. That 26 car, you're going to be seeing a lot of that this year.
We are.
Those guys are going to be running sort of the same thing of what you just outlined. In terms of getting to Outlaw or Canandaigua on an off night or Weedsport, is there one track that you really look forward to going to with some of these other opportunities travel-wise with the 360 that you don't get to go to as often as you'd like?
Woodhull, and it doesn't look like we're going to be able to make it this year, but I love Woodhull. Woodhull's a great little track. I love it. I like the small tracks. Like Woodhull, Brewerton. I really like Brewerton, not just because we were in there, but I like it. Those two really are the two outside of Canandaigua that I look forward to running at. Dundee is all right. For whatever reason, we've never run great there. I'm not a big fan. Great track, I mean, but I don't know. Not a big fan of running at Dundee. Well, it seems like we never had great luck there.
Right.
But, Woodhull and Brewerton are definitely the two up there.
Bad luck can make you change your tune on a track quick.
Yes. Yeah. We've gone there 2-3 different times now, and we haven't really ran great any time. I don't know. Dundee has never treated us really great finish-wise.
Dundee is deceptive.
Yes.
With the size of it, with the way that the banking is, and with the way that you drive it, especially in a sprint car, it does not take much to lose your momentum, and when you lost the momentum, you got a long road ahead of you to get caught back up.
Yeah, I like running the bottom to middle of the top. I'm not a big ride the cushion sort of guy, and Dundee is a ride the cushion kind of a track. So that's probably one of the reasons we've never done really good there, but I don't know. Hopefully, maybe someday it'll be a bottom of the track night and we'll do all right.
Right. They got a bunch of big races scheduled at Outlaw as well. That's going to give you a couple opportunities if you choose to take it to get there. Then, of course, Central New York Speed Week with the Lucas Oil ESS gives you a chance to run a ton through the course of the week.
Yep.
If that's something that your schedule would allow you to do, is that something that you'd follow?
Yeah, we're going to do everything but Can-Am. It's just too far of a drive for us on a Wednesday night or Tuesday, whenever it is this year. But yeah, we're going to do almost every other night of Speed Week besides Utica Rome, or besides Can-Am. Yep, so we'll do that.
How do you like Utica Rome?
So my first time there was the first race of the season last year where we had the big giant Dust Bowl.
Right.
I like dry sled racetracks, and I thought I was going to love Utica Rome. We went there, and it was really dry. First race of the year. I mean, the promoters did everything there to help us out, not complaining about those guys at all.
Sure.
But I think I'd like it if we went back there again. We only ran there just that one time last year, but I think I would like it. I really do.
It's a very sprint car friendly track.
Yes.
When all the stars align and weather cooperates, and you don't end up with that situation you guys saw last year. And last year was an anomaly. I mean, I don't think anybody would ever.
No.
Nobody's going to expect that. Utica Rome's been great for sprint cars. Chuck Heaving's won a ton of times over there.
Like I said, great track. I mean, it looks like I would really like it. I mean, it has the potential. We'll go back there again to try it for sure.
The situation with Canandaigua as that has evolved with the different changes with the purse structures and stuff like that. Was it the rules thing, or was it a point structure thing that led most to this class sort of getting a new life in terms of the 305 over there? What do you think?
I'm not sure it was either one. I think it was a change in management probably had the biggest effect. I'm not allowed to know if I'm allowed to say that, but hey, whatever.
It is what it is.
I think that's the biggest reason. There was a lot of guys that didn't run Canandaigua because they didn't like how they were treated there in the past.
Sure.
Whereas now, like I said, Paul's a great guy. Now, don't get me wrong. The point setup, hey, that's great. I mean, when I won the championship there, hey, congrats, you won it. Thanks a lot. Whereas now, I mean, there's a point setup. You're going to get your own victory lane every night. The purse, like I say, that's a huge deal too. That's better. Rules, they listen to us. That's a huge thing. So, I mean, they did everything to make it work. So, I don't think it's necessarily one thing in particular. It's the whole combination of things that led it to become a success.
Right. The where's that? Let's see. There it is. That's not the show that we were looking for. We don't even want to look at that show. Trying to get back there it is right there. We'll look at just spot check and make sure everything's working good, and it is there.
Rules, they listen to us. That's a huge thing.
What's your cousin been up to?
Benny, he's been really busy here in the off season. He's got a new frame after he piled it up there in the last year.
We shouldn't laugh at him. He's not even here to defend
himself.
I know.
No, he's those guys put a ton of work in. He upgraded his power plant this year, so he has the potential to be doing here really good.
Trying to coordinate everything at the same time. Who else do you know for sure is going to be back in the 305s? The Ruggles have run there before. Are they going to go back to the 305s at Canandaigua as well?
Daryl and Alicia will be there. You got the Napa Shortsville, or the Shortsville Napa number 26, whether Lee's driving it or John Trenca's driving it. Going to have the Griffin team. They're going to be there. Ferguson's, I can imagine, coming back. Preston's, I know, still have a motor. Ferguson, Glovers. Who else? Dan Bennett, I know, has one. Yeah. I mean, there's going to be a bunch of I'll call it the old class that our first year that's going to be coming back, I think.
Right. The getting everybody back together again, does it the class always seemed to get along well for the most part, but there's just like any type of racing, there's a rivalry that develops no matter what.
Oh,
somebody that you want to beat, somebody. Does some of that get shut down a little bit because you've got the reunion sort of feeling at first?
Yeah, we're all buddies and buddies now. Now, granted, we'll always be friends. But the first night that we're running, somebody's gonna bump somebody, or something will happen where you're, now you're all mad at them. But no, at the end of the night, we'll still all drink a beer and cook a hot dog together, and it'll be fine.
The pit space that's been added along the backstretch of Land of Legends Raceway is going to change things dramatically.
Huge.
Open things up quite a bit.
Yep, I'm looking forward to it. We always used to park up there on the hill. Sprint cars, we were always shunned up away from everybody. Go up there by yourselves, you heathens. But no, it's going to be really great. I mean, I'm really looking forward to it. Like I said, they made a ton of great improvements over there, and it should work out really, really well for everyone.
In terms of, I had a question that was on deck for you. Mike Emhoff, and coming in and helping oversee the rules stuff there. We sort of alluded to it a little bit and trying to get everything aligned and uniform. Is there any suggestion at this point that there's going to be some other tracks that look to add 305s since now there's the CRSA and the 305s at Canandaigua, which has a healthy population, and trying to build that up again? Because it seemed like that division was trending pretty strong, and then everything sort of started getting fractured. People were doing things here that they weren't allowed at other places. It started to just kind of splinter off, and after that, all the momentum sort of got squashed, and we were left with sort of what we've hedged around now since we started talking here. Does it seem like there's going to be more tracks that are going to be on board that's going to help bolster who's able to travel, or at least give them more home tracks to use their cars?
I think for sure. Emhoff still has the 305, the CRSA series, so that we can obviously run any of those. I know there's been talks about having, different, like the little mini points series, that's challenge races or challenge series, so that'll be good. Yeah, I think they're definitely working on getting some more tracks local that can have a 305 show at them for sure.
I like the sounds of that. So, what is your dad looking to build in terms of this vintage car? So I'm sort of excited about that whole thing. The fact that he's coming back. I mean, after all this time, and just like he's done. Yep. No, it's not like the old USAC wingless sprint cars from back in like the 50s and 60s. They had that big round roadster style, and he's going to be building a replica of one of those. And what's he going to do with that? Is that just going to be something that he does practice laps, or is there a series where he's got an opportunity to go compete a little bit? No, my dad being how he is, he's going to build it and probably just look at it 98% of the time. He'll run it out at Paradise, I'm sure, a couple times. Like I said, USAC's coming to Weedsport. He may get brave and bring it over there. I don't know. I really don't know, to be honest with you. But it will be a running functional car that he'll get in at some point, I'm sure. It'll be a spur of the moment. He wants to run tonight, and all right, that's what we're going to do. But yeah, it should look really well. He's working with Kelly Hebing and the graphics girls up there in Ontario, and it's going to be a really sharp-looking car. The vintage modified tour set up down here. Has he looked at any of that? No, no. So he ran modifieds, and the reason he got out of them is he likes sprint cars. He just likes them. So no, he's a sprint car guy now. Not that he doesn't like modifieds, but he'd never owned one again. And when we first started getting back into racing, he bought a Sportsman, and then it was decided we had it, and he's looking there. He goes, "I don't like these things anymore. We're not going to run it." Okay, well that's a heck of a thing to decide after we just bought one. So no, I can't picture him ever doing a modified, but he'll definitely sprint car stuff for sure. Did you get a chance to go over and look at the Hall of Fame entries with Jim Champine's car and Bat Ward's car? Those things are gorgeous. I love the historical cars like that. Look, and it's like that was cutting edge technology in his day. It's like I know. I love all that old historical stuff. That Champagne car was the first one that Jimmy built, and one of the Joyas drove it for a while. It rotated in and out with a bunch of different drivers. Mike McLaughlin was in that car. Yep. That car was in competition right up until the 90s. Yeah. And now it's been restored to where it is, and that was the most radical, orthodox car that anybody had ever come across. Exactly, for that offset design, and it set the stage for what super modified racing's turned into. And now a current one sitting next to it, I think that's the Kingsley car that was sitting next to it over there on the opposite side. It's just to see those two things side by side. It's so jarring because that's the same division, and they've gone through so much changes, but there's some of those inherent cues that still carry over that are plain as day. Yeah, absolutely. Like saying that you look at sprint cars over the years, I mean, the same relative thing's the same. You push them to stardom. You've got a wing. Now, granted, wings are drastically different nowadays. I love looking at, even back when Dad used to run in the early 90s. Things have come so far. Safety equipment being one. That safety, you looked at the stuff they used to run, it's like that. How did more people not just die? But, no, cars, they say you keep the base, the foundation, but they've gone through a whole lot of remodeling cycles for sure. Yeah, that's one of the things about racing is evolution is a huge part of it. Absolutely. But, I still wish they would put starters on the 360s. Oh, but I always like to say real race cars don't have starters. But it's part of like the sprint car in Australia. They have those 604 wingless sprint cars that have a starter and a clutch. And there was a guy actually at the wingless show at Weedsport last year, and I watched him drive away. I'm like, what is that? He just started his car sitting next to me. I got to get pushed out, get pushed off, and I know that's one of the reasons that some guys don't like sprint cars, the amount of time it takes to do it. By the time modifieds roll out, you can push a sprint car off and get them aligned just as quick. You still have to run hot laps whether it has a starter or not, right? Exactly. You got to start it one way or another. Hey, it's just extra weight that we don't need. We got a couple other folks that are starting to come in close. We're gonna cycle through. I appreciate you letting us out. Don't go yet. I appreciate letting us set up by the car. I know we've talked about the family. Erik Karlsen, always good to catch up with you. I didn't even know that you were coming. I'd fallen off of the radar and didn't even know you were gonna be here. So I'm glad to bump into you. Glad to catch up. Who you want to mention on the car, and who helps make sure that the car is going to be out there this year? Got a bunch of great sponsors that have stuck with us really right from day one. Finger Truck and Welding, they're
Tony Morrow and his guys are great to us. Anything we need, they help us out. Uncle Mike with Michael D. Tarleson Land Surveying. He's been with us right from day one. Appreciate everything he's done to help us out. Lake Street Station Winery, Bobby Sivers and his whole team, they've really helped us out. We also added Sivers Marina this year, so that it's nice for him to add another business on board, so really appreciate that. Lane's Yamaha, they're a new one for this year.
Yep.
Appreciate Meltram. Meltram and Dad have been friends for years. Every time we go down there, they talk about a time back in like 1991. He tipped Dad over on his birthday up in Canada, and it's great. I mean, they've been friends forever, so it's nice to have Lane's on board this year.
Sure.
That's really cool.
You said Stivers Marina. How long before we get an aquatics kit, a marine kit for your 360?
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, it's a cool, and a lot of us, we all go down there. You got the little tiki bar there at the north end of the lake. We go out. Last year, we all went out on this big party barge at the end of the year. Got a bunch of, actually, most of the 305 race friends that we have. Everybody came out and had a great time. So, yeah, it's a great place to go out there and hang out for sure. But,
fantastic. Erik, I wish you the best of luck this year. Always good to see you. Thanks a lot for giving us a little space here.
Yep, no problem.
Thank you. Erik Karlsen checking in with us, getting ready for the 2018 season. Now we've got Lee Sanders with the number 26 that's getting ready to jump in. He's got to check in with his media director, make sure it's okay for him to come on the show. We're also going to be catching up with Dave Axton. Again, quick start to it. We're running a little bit behind. We were getting everything ready to go. Again, there's, you can see now the Lane's Yamaha logo on Erik's sprint car that's sitting right here behind us. Late start. Things ran over a little bit with Final Round Drag Racing Podcast down there with the Gas Racing Series and South Butler Nostalgia Dragway. So we drug the table up to this end of the mall to take our spot at center court, and our initial spot had no power. So we had to make a change on the fly. We're going to be catching up again with Highside Apparel, Racewear. Dave Axton is going to be joining us here. But first, before we talk with him, sliding in, driver, owner, I guess, maybe would be the more appropriate way to term it now, of the Churchill Napa Auto Parts number 26, Lee Sanders. Good to see you.
Nice to see you again.
For sure. The Sanders Race Fest 2018 going to be later this month, March the 31st. The Sharpsville American Legion Buffet. Nick and the Nice Guy is going to be coming and performing as well. Going to have the car on display. It's always a good time out there at the American Legion. How's Speedworld been?
It's not been too bad. It's been a long winter for me. I've had a few health issues, you know, so that's why we kind of decided to get a driver in the car and see how it works out.
Change things up a little bit?
Change things up a little bit.
Is he going to sit down with us for a minute?
Sure, he'll sit right down with us.
He's more tech savvy. We'll have him wear the headset. So, tell me a little bit more about what the plans are for this year. We've got a couple different car options now to pick from.
Yeah, pretty much what happened is over the winter there, my wife's great nephew decided he'd like to try go-kart racing, so we put our feelers out to try to buy a decent go-kart. Right. Ended up finding one that John drove here. So when we went up and picked it up, I said to his dad, I said, so what's your father, or what are you going to do now, or what's John going to do now that we bought the cart out from underneath him? And he says, well, we really don't know yet. And I kind of threw out the offer that we'd put him in our car and see how he does. And
so introducing John, sitting down with us now.
Yeah, John Trenca.
John Trenca, that's Joe's younger brother, right? So tell me a little bit about how that offer came about. You sort of threw it out there, and John, I'm sure, said, no, I don't want to. It's not anything I'm interested in, right?
No, not at all. I was down in North Carolina, actually, and my dad called
Excuse me 1 second. I'm going to do this so that we can hear you. Make sure that we can get everything you're saying. There you go.
All right. Yeah, I was down in North Carolina, and my dad gave me a call, and he said, how would you like to run a 305? And I said, obviously, I'd love to run that. He's like, well, the person who just bought your go-kart, Lee Sanders, was offering you a ride. And I said, yeah, I'd love to take that opportunity. And went down and met him, and a great family, and offered me the ride. And going to hop into the car in 2018.
And it's 305s at Canandaigua or with CRSA?
We're going to put him into 305 at Canandaigua and see how that goes. And for the first few weeks, we'll be kind of racing ourselves and see how things go.
Sure.
And then as he gets more comfortable with it, we'll take the leash off and let him go after it and see how he makes out.
The second car is the 360.
Yeah, we got the other car. Yeah, that's a 360 car.
Is that mothballs for now?
Well, we're going to get it ready to go, and then I'll possibly do a few ESS shows with it. We've also talked about possibly selling the motor and buying another 305, and then if I feel
Now you got another 305. Last I knew, you had 2 305s, didn't you?
Well, we had the 305, and then we used the other car as a 360 car. So
no, motor-wise. I thought
motor-wise, I got one of each right now.
Okay.
Yeah, but if we sell the 360, then I'll buy another fresh 305, and then we could have 2 rolling cars, and if something happens to John's car, then we could always throw that in there and keep them going.
Have you come to grips yet with the fact that you're going to be watching the Blue 26 from the sidelines?
No. Late at night, I wake up sometimes and think, boy, this is going to be a strange feeling watching my car go around in circles. But I've got a lot of faith in John. I know what he's done in the past, and I think he'll adapt real well.
What's your brother saying?
He's excited for me. He's real excited. He's given me a lot of pointers. I've watched him for 5 or 6 years now, so I know kind of how the sprint car itself works and how they operate and what goes into it. And now it's just kind of in my hands to.
Now Lee was saying that he felt that you were actually the better talent between the
two. don't get me in the middle of
that.
Well, that's yet to be seen. We'll find out.
Yeah.
The goal I would trust for somebody like yourself is just to get as high as you possibly can in racing. So certainly there's a desire to get through the 305 as quick as possible and get into the 360. So you guys are back to a point where you're debating back and forth about the same type of stuff. But where do you want to go? I mean, all the joking aside, where do you want to go with your racing career?
The dream would be World of Outlaws, running on the World of Outlaw Tour. I mean, just watching what they do all year is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And then they get rides for the Chili Bowl. They get rides to venture out and do all other kinds of racing. And I think that would be awesome. Just go 90 races a year with a team that's got you ready to go, and you can just race all the time. I mean, that would be my ultimate goal, but I'm just going to stick with the 305 now, obviously.
Get 305 first, right?
Yeah, just.
John's graduating from high school this year, and I think your plan is to be like a financial advisor down the road or something like that. So I'm kind of hoping he could take my $5 and make $5 million out of it, and then we'll take him to.
I think you guys are a great team right now.
Yeah.
Because if he can offer some financial advice, I'm sure that the budget at Shortsville Napa is going to go up, and then from there, World of Outlaws is just a stone throw away, right?
Well, I'm sure if he's going to be a good financial advisor, he'll say racing's not a good place to spend your money, but we gotta play sometime.
You gotta meter your advice somehow, right?
Yeah.
It's a great place to invest your money.
My money, yeah.
Not his money.
If I could find my wife another job, then I'd retire tomorrow.
Canandaigua is under some new management. We talked a little bit about that with Erik here last. What do you guys think about the changes and the upgrades that have been done in terms of pit space, in terms of point structures, in terms of the uniformity of the rules? There's a lot of different stuff to talk about that's going on over there.
Yeah, there's a tremendous amount of stuff being done over there, and I think it's all for the better. Paul's a really good guy. He's a good businessman, and I think he's put all the right people in the right places to make things happen. So we're looking for, not just our class, but every class over there will probably grow substantially. And we're just hoping they give us a better surface to race on and, safer place to race at. And
I don't think those are unreasonable expectations right now anyway.
No, and we all understand that he's taken on a huge undergoing here, so it's going to take a little while to accomplish everything. But everything I've seen so far, I've been really happy with.
Erik was explaining the equality between the CRSAs and the 305s that are going to be running. CRSA is going to be making a bunch of stops at Land of Legends, and things are basically a mirror of itself in terms of the rules. Is that a case where we're going to see you back in the car?
I don't know. If John does a real good job and stays out of trouble and don't eat up too much equipment, and I can get used to standing in the pits and watching the car go around in circles, I'm just as happy being there. Yeah. Making some calls and helping out and keeping things going. And my crew chief there, Matt Metz, he's, agreed to stay with me and help John, see if we can get him some success.
Have you guys done anything in terms of the car setup at this point versus what you've got in the car, what works for you, and what John might want in the car, and any information that he might have brought in?
We've talked briefly about it, and I want to sit down and talk to him some more one-on-one later on. But he's coming from the
Right
karts.
now.
Well, we can. I mean, he's coming from the go-karts. And if anybody knows me, I'm kind of, they call me a bottom feeder. I tend to go around the bottom.
Yep.
That seems to be where I can gain the biggest advantage on a lot of these guys. So the car's set up a little bit to the soft side, so the weight transfers quickly for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he'll adapt to that really well, and then we'll watch and see how he gets comfortable with the car, and if he starts moving up, we'll have to make adjustments.
Sure.
But I think he'll adapt rather well.
I mean, being around your brother's program too, you've got to have at least some bleed over. You like sprint cars. You wanted to get to this point. Do you have some idea of what you want your car to do?
Yeah, like Lee said, he's the bottom feeder. I think that's. I've watched a lot of videos, and I've seen he's accomplished some wins there, and so I think I could stick with the bottom feeder driving style. I think the car could be set up like that, and we could make it work. I definitely like that driving style better. I mean, I've watched my brother, and he just pounds the cushion lap after lap.
It's not exactly apples to apples either. You know, the 360 having more power, the 305 you're not going to be able to slam the cushion that way.
Yeah, and we've talked about that, and I've explained to him about these cars are almost like go-karts. You have to work off of momentum and keep your momentum up, because as soon as you start scrubbing power off, the rest of the field goes by you. But we'll see how he goes. If he starts getting comfortable and can run up in the middle, and a lot of it's going to depend on the track. I mean, we haven't had a cushion to run on there in a long time. In the middle, it generally gets hard slick, so you either have to pick the bottom or pick the top.
But you've always done better on hard slick tracks anyway.
Yeah, I had to. I like a heavier track, but I've had to get used to the hard slick tracks because that's what everybody's gone to. And if you're going to have any success, you got to just do it.
Well, with the 305 side of things, given that you're running on a track that's predominantly designed for modifieds, it's set up for modifieds. So 305 doesn't have the power to go roar around the outside to begin with. You're going to see that dry slick situation, and at that point, then how much then plays into setup? It seems like you have to nail the setup and be able to get as much grip as possible in order to go forward. That's inherent in any type of racing anyway.
Yep.
But you don't have the power to rely on to make up for a mistake. It has to be dead on with the setup.
That's right. As soon as you start taking that horsepower and that torque away, it just narrows up that band of success as far as the setup goes in the gearing. And like you say, with these cars and that spec motor, that Race Saver type motor, they're all so close in horsepower and tech that you let somebody get out on you, and it's very hard to get them back. So
sure.
your margin of error is a lot less. Also,
I'm trying to think about, other than early season when we've got a lot of water in the ground, have you seen a lot of, even over the last maybe 2 years, and you've been winning races in that exchange, have you seen a lot of heavy tracks with the 305?
Last year we were there 8 times. Out of those 8 races, we've won 6 of them, and I think only once or twice the track had any kind of bite where you could really get a hold of it anywhere on the track. One thing we got in our favor this year is Paul's, I guess, is committed to a schedule of racing, and we'll be out every week before the modifieds.
Right.
So it should give us a bit better of a racetrack to handle.
Yeah, it's gonna help out a little bit.
Yeah.
When are you gonna put a push on to get 360s weekly?
I would do it in a heartbeat. I don't know if Paul would do that.
I don't know if it would work.
It's unfortunately, like with the 305s, we're running for a very slim purse, and even if you win the race, you're not covering the expenses of running the car.
You've also got so many touring series that are out there for the 360s.
Right.
It just wouldn't work, especially on a Saturday night. I just don't see where you would be able to draw the cars.
Yeah, and as soon as you bring the 360 car out, it's just the budget for that's much more to run it consistently.
What's the comparison on a fair budget to run a 305? I mean, is it a top of the line sportsman car? Is it a middle of the road sportsman car? Comparatively,
it's expense-wise up front, you're probably spending about the same as a good sportsman car.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's how much equipment you wreck. If you're going to go out, if you're going to go out there and pull a wing off at every other race, that's $800, $1,000 for a wing. If you start wrecking wheels, that's $300, $400, $500 for wheels. I mean,
your tire budget's got to be lower on the 305.
At Canandaigua, you know, if you don't siphon groove the crap out of the right rear tire all the time, I mean, we've had a set of tires last half a season and more. And like I say, this year running before the modifieds, I think it's going to be a lot easier on them. Yeah.
Sure. The modifieds boil that surface off and get it pretty packed in. And
you know, once again, I mean, in the past few years, we've been running 6, 8, 12 cars. Mm-hmm. This year, they're expecting 18, 20 some cars. So it might force us into, you know, chewing up the right rear a little more and grooving it and making it so it's going to hang in there a little quicker.
Yes and no. I mean, why is this class? I asked Erik this, and he said there was a litany of issues that played into why the class has seen such a resurgence between rules, between purse, etc. Why do you think the class is so strong coming in this year?
In years past, I mean, Jeremy Cochran has run the show over there, and I think he basically just burned himself out, and he got tired of some of the politics and some of the stuff going on, the drama, and he kind of unloaded on some of the sprint car guys unnecessarily, and I think he realizes that. And some of them took a burn to it and left and didn't come back. You know, and then unfortunately we had the wreck between Darryl Ruggles and Charlie Donk, and that took about 6 or 8 cars away from us ultimately, you know. So it depleted them out, and we were running for $125 to win, which is kind of was an insult to us, but we love racing, so we were running for, you know, a trophy if we had to, I guess. Don't tell Paul that.
Yeah, whoa.
Yeah, don't tell Paul that. But guys would run, and if they wrecked or chewed up any equipment, you wouldn't see them back for a couple of weeks because they just couldn't afford it. Paul's bumped our purse a little bit, and we appreciate that. And the better surface and the better track and the better lighting, I think, is just adding to the guys wanting to come back.
You hit on something with the purse there. He's bumped the purse a little bit, and anything is an improvement.
Anything is an improvement.
So where should the money go? Should it be more to win, or should you be bolstering that 8th through 12th spot and get them more pay so that they don't have the mid-season attrition like you see? Sure, you can start the season with 18 cars, but if at the end of the July you're down to 6 to 8, what does anybody gain?
It's very interesting you asked me this question, and I'll give you my opinion on it. Paul and Greg Hickson, and they're really putting their neck out on line for this class. They're trying to keep us there and trying to build the class. They're kind of focusing on this point fund. Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, I would rather see the point fund get divvied out to the cars on a weekly basis to keep those low-income cars coming back, those low-budget cars coming back next week.
Sure.
We're going to be running for like $400 to win this year. I'd hate to see them take any of that money away because I think the winner deserves at least that. Mm-hmm. But I've always been a proponent of paying deep back in the field to keep the guys coming back week after week, you know. And there again, I'm politicking to all the drivers that I can. Remember, when you go out there, we're only running for $400.
What's second place?
I couldn't tell you.
Falls off pretty steep.
It falls off pretty steep. But if everybody can get in their head that we're only running for $400 and only one guy's walking out of there with that, let's not go out there and tear up tires, tear up wheels, tear up wings. You know, get everybody to come back the following week and put on another good show.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the biggest things, that regardless of what type of racing you're in, if it involves turning left, you got to have some degree of patience, and so often it comes that the guys are trying to win the race on the first lap, and it's only hurting themselves and unfortunately one or two other guys that are in the crosshairs of it. Yeah,
and that's a hard thing to get used to in this 305 class, because the easiest place to pass a car is on the initial green flag, you know. So everybody's bonsai on that first, second lap, and sometimes we get in trouble doing that, you know. But if you could just instill that patience in them and give us some extra laps, that's another deal. Last year we ran 10, 12 laps for a feature. This year I think they're going to extend it out to 20. So it'll give them a little more time to get to the front.
So right there, that's a change to your maintenance program.
Yeah,
because you're running almost double the distance in your features.
Yeah, it's going to increase the cost of the fuel, more wear and tear on the tires. Hopefully the track won't be too rough. Hopefully you'll have a handle on that, and it won't be eating up shocks and bars and stuff like
getting
that.
Getting ahead of the modifieds, going the extra distance is going to help a lot.
That's going to help our division tremendously. Yeah.
Because otherwise, tires start getting real expensive with the extra laps out there.
Yeah, I mean, right rear is a couple $100, so if you start chewing one of them off.
The 305s are running the same as the 360 tires, right?
Yeah, they were kind enough to us to let us run that HTC Hoosier tire.
Yeah.
That most of the Patriot guys and most of the ESS guys are running, so that helps us out because you don't have to go out and buy a new tire if you can't afford it.
Well, can you imagine what things would be like if you weren't allowed the HTC tire, and now you've got to run a separate tire compound, potentially have to run separate wheels because the tires are already mounted so they're ready to go, or you're breaking tires on and off all the time. From the 305 to the 360, that would be a major headache for the 305 guys.
Yeah, it really would. And there's several teams that don't buy new tires. They run off of used tire programs from other guys.
Sure.
I think John's brother, there's a few guys that buy tires from his brother, and they work just as well as a new tire. So,
I mean, as a financial guy, you're looking at dollars and cents, but there's got to be some party inside that's really excited about this.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I don't really talk much and show a lot of emotion at the track, but I can tell you that much that I'm very excited for this opportunity. I mean, this is definitely something that I've always wanted to do, and now I got the opportunity. So,
I'm excited for it. You're gonna have a lot of fun. It's good equipment, that's for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're going to try to keep them in the best equipment that we can keep them in. I've always taken a lot of pride in that our cars are good pieces, good bullets. Yep. And then I got this is my great nephew here. He's my other driver in the go-karts this year. So we got our hands full. We'll stay busy.
The Napa colors back on the car again this year. They got to be excited about the opportunities that are coming along with this as well.
Yeah. We sat down because we're organizing our party coming up at the end of the month, and it just kind of hit us that we started out. This will be my 39th year racing. Jeez. And Napa's been on our cars for 20 of those 39.
That's awesome.
So the relationship means a lot to us.
That's fantastic. You alluded to the party again. The Race Fest 2018, Sanders Race Fest 2018, March the 31st at the Shortsville American Legion. It's on Route 21. 5 o'clock start for the buffet. Nick and the Nice Guys are going to be performing. Tickets are $15 each, $25 for a couple. Band only at 8 o'clock. There's a $10 cover. Raffles 50-50. You want tickets? 315-374-6895. 374-6895 for information. You can also jump online and find Sanders Motorsports on Facebook. Very active page there. I'm excited for it, guys. This is sounding good. The season's and it's right around the corner. We're not far from having laps turned on tracks.
I know it'll be here before we know it. I mean, we got this weekend here at the mall here, and it's tremendous turnout.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And next week we're up at Syracuse at the Motorsports Expo up there.
I'll see you there.
And then we got a couple race parties after that, and hopefully the weather will cooperate and we'll get some practice laps in.
Yeah, we're looking at it happening very soon. I think the High Bank holdup at Fulton is the 28th and 29th of April.
Is it? Yep. I've already talked to Gary Pallone over at Paradise, and he's willing to let us come over there and get some practice laps in and get John used to firing the car and that kind of stuff. And so we're looking forward to it. If Mother Nature will cooperate, we're up for it.
They gonna let you put starters on these yet?
No, a real race car doesn't have starters on it. So,
It's the second time we've heard that exact phrase today. Awesome. Is there anybody that you want to make mention of that's helping you out with the car, that's keeping things going?
Yeah. First, we want to thank Shortsville Napa there for being with us and hanging in there with us for so many years, and then Sandman Sandblasting. They do all our blasting and paint and body work for us and stuff like that. Cook's Contracting, that's Jeff Cook there that runs with ESS. And if anybody don't know, all of my equipment is basically hand-me-down equipment from him. So we try to keep her in good shape. P&J Lawn Care, they've been on board for us for the last 5 years or so and help us out tremendously with trucks and trailers and wherever they can help us out a little bit. It's huge.
I see the car, P&J Lawn Care and Snow Plowing. Were they busy this week?
They were going to come up today, and they're out cleaning up snow. So hopefully it'll ease up a little bit, and they can come up tomorrow and we can go out front for lunch and,
awesome.
Have a good time.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, John, best of luck.
Nice
meeting you.
Thank you. I appreciate
Lee,
it.
Always good to see you. I'll see you next weekend, too. We're going to be up in Syracuse as well.
Very good.
Awesome.
Very good.
Have fun. Have a good party. I'll be in touch about the party.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, man. We'll talk to you soon. John Trenca taking over the number 26 for Lee Sanders. And Lee Sanders moving into a car owner's role for the 2018 season over at Land of Legends. We're going to be catching up with Dave Axton here in just a few minutes. I'm going to get Dave over here. He's busy over there selling more Highside Racewear to the different folks. And also Alicia Ruggles was talking about maybe stopping by here in the next few minutes. They're getting ready for the Power Wheels races up at the top of the mall, so not going to be able to transition to that quite as easily as we had maybe initially planned, but nonetheless, that is something that's sitting out there as another one of the events that's going on here at Finger Lakes Speedworld. Again, 31st lap. We're throwing a couple curveballs a little bit as we transition from Final Round Drag Racing Podcast down at the opposite end of the mall with the Gasler Racing Series. We were then forced to come up here and cut a curveball. We were set up over by Lee Sanders, number 26, and unfortunately there was no power available over there. So I saw Erik Karlsen standing up over here, and we made the quick adjustment to redirect and come over here, and everything right now shaping up pretty well. Again, Finger Lakes Speedworld 2018, Jim Olin overseeing this third year for him in charge of Finger Lakes Speedworld, and an absolutely packed center court. Both of the Ruggles, Alicia and Daryl Ruggles' car over there. Alicia's since been married. I've been called her Alicia Ruggles for years. But indeed, she's over there. Mike Emhoff Motorsports and the CRSA series also set up in center court. They've had a constant line of people. Just come and sit down, Jason. Come and sit down. You got to see some of this thing work now. Just use this microphone here.
Say not my normal headset?
Nope, you don't have to worry about the headset.
I'm kind of camera shy.
Jason Oldfield from Final Round Drag Racing Podcast fame and Western New York Super Rod Association fame, coming and sitting down with us for a few minutes. You're a little outside of your regular world over here, aren't you?
Definitely am. Yeah, definitely am. I have to say that I had a few basic questions for a couple of the guys. You know, it's like, all right, I understand why the right rear tire is taller than the left rear, but why is it wider than the left rear? And it's like, oh, that's because of weight transfer. When you hit the corner, you need more traction. Right. So you go with the wider tire back there, too. Yep. It's like, okay, well, that makes sense. Not something that we have to worry about when we're going in a straight line.
Nope, bigger footprint.
Right. So that made sense. And I was asking, I don't know her last name or his last name, but Alicia's husband with the pink car over there about the primary header tube size, because it looked like they were 1 7/8, and it sounds like from a rule standpoint that you really can't run any bigger. I guess they run a 305, I think, is the motor. There's a 305, a 360, and then
410s.
410s. Okay, so
the 305 is what we were just talking about a little bit with both the car behind us and Lee Sanders.
Okay.
Both of these guys, Erik Karlsen, which is the car that's right over our shoulder.
Yep.
And Lee have 305s that they run at Canandaigua.
Okay.
Which is now the same rule book as the CRSA Sprints, and the CRSA Sprint Series has 4 races at Canandaigua, Atlanta Legends Raceway, which is under new management with Paul Cole. They also own 360s, which is a 360 cubic inch motor, and that's what is used on the Patriot Sprint Tour, which is set up over there.
Okay.
The Lucas Oil Empire Super Sprints.
All right.
And some of the URC races, which is United Racing Club out of New Jersey. No problem.
We had somebody come by and decide that they didn't like that camera angle, so.
And the United Racing Club out of New Jersey and Pennsylvania, they run the 360s too.
Okay.
And then from there you step up to the 410s, and each one is incrementally more money. It's generally the same chassis, so to say, but the biggest difference is the motors.
Now I'm assuming that the 360 is not it's not the Mopar 360 motor, but it's some type of bored and stroked motor out to 360 cubic inches.
Yes. Are you familiar with a GM 358?
Yes. So is that what it is, a 358?
Yeah.
But they call them 360s.
It's bored out. Yeah, it's a excuse me, I misspoke. That's a different racing car. It's a 350 that's been bored out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was saying, because the 358, that's a real popular small block to run. So when NHRA had the Pro Stock trucks, all the Pro Stock trucks ran the 358s blade valve motors. And
these are 350s that have been built to be 360s with their displacement.
360 maximum probably. I mean, if you want to run 355 or something like that, you can.
The
but
358, in terms of the circle track stuff, was a bored out motor.
That was the SB 2.2 motor.
That was for the dirt modifieds, the support division to the big blocks. So Dave Axton, ready to go. You gonna hang out and talk with Dave for a few minutes?
I'll get out of the way.
Okay.
I'll continue to try and protect the camera like I was before. And as soon as I sat down, sure enough, it gets knocked over. So I'll go do that, play guard, and let me know if you need anything.
All right, I will do that. Hey. Hey. Dave Axton sitting down.
How you doing?
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
How are you?
Great.
Thanks for joining us. Highside Racewear. Staying plenty busy over there, huh?
Crazy busy. Yeah, it's been a crazy month. A lot of people wait to the last minute.
Well, that's racers. That shouldn't be too much of a surprise for anybody.
Yeah.
Is this the busiest Speedworld that you've been to? I mean, it seems like you've been mobbed.
By far. This is the third year I've been doing it. And I'll be honest with you, I did last year. I did the spring show in Syracuse there, the Gator show, and I wasn't as busy as I am here.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's really. I mean, this is really amazing, and I feel good for Jim because he puts his heart and soul into this thing, and it's nice, you know, to have people turn out for him.
The turnout this year has been phenomenal, and I mean, you can speak to this on both sides of the coin. We're really close to Rolling Wheels. We're really close to Weed Sport here at Finger Lakes Speedworld. All the same, this being modified country, we are surrounded by sprint cars. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, being a modified guy myself, number one, it's pretty amazing to me to see the change in the whole culture of Central New York racing over the past 5-6 years. It's been amazing, and you know, the modifieds are here to stay. They're not going anywhere, but it's just it blows my mind at how many sprint cars are around Central New York now. I mean, you know, years ago you just had to wait for the URC to come to town to see sprint cars,
right? And
now it's just unbelievable. So it's cool.
ESS and Patriot Sprint Tour running very healthy tours, and there's some overlap, but there's people that are exclusive to one series or another, and both of them surviving with very able health in this area.
Full car counts in both. You know, I know ESS, you know, we had 32 cars on average almost all year long, and we start 24. So it's unbelievable. You know, years ago, you struggled to get 16, 17 cars some of these races, and now it's, you know, you're sending 10 cars home. So it's great. You know, it just shows how healthy things are going in racing here now. So it's just.
What do you think of John Trenca getting hired to drive Lee Sanders' car?
It's great. He actually has one of my suits coming, so it's good. You know, and anytime you see some of these younger guys, you know, getting in, it's good because it's good for the health of our sport.
So my memory is a bit muddied on where things are at with Dave Axton Racer and Dave Axton Highside Racewear. What ended up happening? I mean, how active are you still remaining with the racing wear side of things when you're in the middle of the season? You know, how does all of this ebb and flow? Because I remember the modified thing, and then that transition was like so many modified drivers got to the sprint car, and it was a whole new career.
Yeah, and I'm struggling more than most of them do because I think I have all of my modified bad habits that don't translate to a sprint car. And I mean, I started running
Drive it off the right front.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, that doesn't work in these.
Tell Chuck Ebing.
Yeah, well, I know. You know, I started running Sportsman in like 1989. You know what I mean? So I have so many years of running, you know, modifieds, some of them junk. But that it's just, you know, I had to overdrive all my equipment with the modified to just keep up, and that causes horrible bad habits.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So when you get to a sprint car and it's all momentum, and you're used to, you know, bad handling equipment, stuff that's outdated, like I went through, it makes the transition even worse. So, you know, I'm okay. You know, I can be 6th, 7th. You know what I mean? But I'm struggling to crack the top 5 a lot. I mean, I've got a few, but you know, I hate to say that I'm still learning at 48 years old. But maybe by the time I'm 50, I'll figure it out, and then I'll be ready to quit. So,
what's the biggest difference between running modifieds and running 360s? You know, we talked about the bad habits.
Besides everything.
Talking about the bad habits.
Well, the sprint cars are just plain momentum. I mean, if you break momentum in these cars, you're going backwards 3 spots.
Sure.
And because of the way you have to drive these, everybody's pretty much throttle on all the time. So there's not a lot of throttle off time. Where with a modified, I could be better, say, getting in, you could be better getting out, and we can run the same lap times.
Sure.
Where with these, if you're not dead on, because it's flat foot all the time, if you've got to crack the throttle, you're back 4 spots.
Right.
So that's probably the biggest thing is you cannot break momentum. You know what I mean? With a mod, with a big block, you have plenty of power to gain that back.
Right.
Not saying we don't have power, but it's all on throttle all the time.
Is it better on the motors to be on the throttle all the time versus on and off, on and off? Because I'm thinking back to like with the small block campaigns with the dirt modified, or with the dirt Northeast style modified, when they had the 358s, they were not as forgiving as a big block. A big block, you put it together, you're going to lose power.
Right.
But those parts are going to be in that car for a long time unless something catastrophic happens. Now we've got the 360 sprint car, which is a different world because you're wide open on it the whole time. So you don't have the up and down throttle cycles like you do with a small block modified, but you're also on it wide open the whole time.
Right. I mean, you're still breathing it, and you don't realize you're breathing it because when you're running with people, you've got to you got to pop off just a hair. But like there's places where you're never off, and like Selinsgrove, your engine builder will tell you, I don't care where you do it, every 3 laps, you better let it breathe a second. You know what I mean? Really? So. Which is hard to do because you're literally flat all the time and you never have to pick off. But your motor guy wants to see it breathe a little bit. Central New York stuff, because it gets so slick, you're breathing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But the secret is breathing it and keeping your momentum up without breaking it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So it's a lot easier said than done. A lot easier for a lot of people. Very difficult for me right now.
Jason Oldfield, who's standing there guarding the camera, he's with me on the Final Round Drag Racing podcast, our drag racing focused show, and we got talking about the motors and 360s, and I defaulted to small block modifieds and not 350. And he's talking about the pro stock trucks that were out there, ran a 358 motor by design, but I got to believe that that's a much different combination than what we're seeing in these things.
Well, there are some true 358s running with us.
Yeah.
Still wet sump stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Guys are just literally taking their small block stuff and they're throwing a Engler injection on it and coming out and having some fun. Vinny Vitale is one of them.
Sure.
Plenty of power in a 358. Is he giving up a little bit? Maybe, but honestly, in Central New York, you don't need that crazy stuff.
The 358s that you're talking about running in here are very different than the 358 sprints we're talking about at Lincoln and Williams Grove too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Those 358s are all steel-headed stuff, but actually can make equal or sometimes more power than what we can make with an aluminum 360.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. But sprint cars are here, I think, to stay up here.
Sprint cars are crazy as it is.
Yeah, it is crazy, but it's really great to see. I mean, it's unbelievable how many cars are around.
Did you ever imagine you were going to be the owner of a sprint car?
Never. Well, yeah, no. Did I ever imagine owning one? No, but when I was 16, I was fitted for the car that Bobby Perro ended up driving for Stackus.
Okay.
This goes back a long way.
Yeah.
I was actually Stackus was one of my sponsors racing go-karts, and at that time I raced with the Burleys and Bobby Perro. Bobby Perro was like a god to all us younger kids. You know, I mean, he's only 4 or 5 years older, but he was like the guy. And so my sponsor wanted to go sprint car racing. So I was fit. He went out, bought the car. I was fitted for it. And at the last second, my father pulled me out and wouldn't let me go, which really stunk.
Sure.
So I went a different way. We went sports and modified racing, which, was tough. So now fast forward 20 some years, whatever it even is, then I'm 45 years old, going to go sprint car racing after, having the chance when I was younger. So now I always think, man, where would I have been if I started running them at 16?
Right.
Where would I have been if I started running them 20 years ago? Because, I don't have a big budget in my racing program, but my budget for my sprint car is huge compared to what my budget was with my big block. And it's just, I can't explain why. And we travel, but I end up being in the black much more than I ever was with a modified.
Modifieds do not make money.
No, I mean, it's just, you just can't. And, I think I listened to your show a couple weeks ago when you were talking about the 18-degree heads, ruining modified racing, basically. I don't think you said ruining, but
that was the underlying current.
You were talking about it. Well, in my case, it ruined it. Like literally overnight, I got ran out of it.
Right.
Because
but how many?
And I can
think
of how
many people are in your boat, because you're not.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to come down on you.
Yeah, no.
You're not the exception. You're the rule.
Right.
You're the rule of what modified racing was all about. Everybody had one. They made it work on their budget.
Right.
And when that stuff came in, you lost a giant portion of your
overnight.
A giant portion of your population, not just a giant portion of your population, but the ones that you kept, know coming out of the blocks that they're running for 8.
Right. I had a $10,000 big block, was fine with it for a lot of years, and I could run with just about everybody. And then overnight, the 18-degree head killed me. And then I had, for a period of time, ran Tim Fuller's backup car, the BNF General Machine car, and it really reinforced my thought of leaving big blocks after I ran that and felt how easy it was. It was effortless to run top 5 with that car. Where with my stuff, I mean, I had to overdrive it beyond belief in order to just try to keep up.
Right.
And when I got out of the BNF car, I said, I'm done beating my head against the wall in my own junk because I can't run with those guys. And now I see why, you know, these guys are, it's effortless, you know, and I'm like, okay, I see. And I had to leave.
And you know, like we alluded to earlier, modifieds, they're not going anywhere. I mean, we're not out of modifieds, but the populations populations are so much different. The Crate Sportsman series is giving new life to that, and I mean that division was on the ropes bad.
And I honestly think that the big block modified world is, and people are going to be upset to hear it, but I think 5 years from now there's going to be either no big blocks or it's all going to be small block stuff, because I mean there's no reason for a lot of these people to move up because they know they can't afford a set of $26,000 18-degree heads before you even have a motor to put it on. You just can't do it. You just can't do it. And
for how much a week? $2,000 to win?
Exactly. Well, it's actually gone down. It was $1,500. It was $2,000 in the 90s when I was racing big blocks, and all of a sudden overnight that changed to $1,500. I'm like, how is this possible?
And what was 8th and 10th and 12th paying?
Oh gosh, I think at the end of the night, maybe 250. I mean, I get 250, 275, 300 just to take the green in a sprint car. We always seem to have 2 or 3 races linked together. So when you travel to Canada, when you travel different places, there's 2 or 3 races to run. And the difference with a sprint car is either, yes, you know, you can have those nights where you bring it home in a basket, but you have more of those nights where you can't put a scratch on it, because we all know that if you do scratch it, chances are you're bringing it home in a basket, because you can't run side by side banging people.
That's true.
You know, when you got NERT bars on it, you know, you move people aside. You just can't do that with these.
Right.
And if you do, you're in trouble.
What is the difference, or what is the catalyst? What's the common ground between the big block modified and the 360 sprint that has let so many modified drivers move out of their door cars and jump into the 360 and be successful? I mean, there's a good list. You know, you look at Steve Poirier, Stu Friesen, Lance Young was the first guy to do it.
Right, absolutely. And Lance Young came from really struggling with a modified. You know, he did well at some, you know, Dundee, Woodall, but Canandaigua. I mean, I grew up there, and I don't remember Lance ever being like an overpowering force at Canandaigua.
Right.
Adaptation, I think. I mean, you know, Chuck is a wild man. Was when we raced together in Sportsman when we were, you know, in the early 90s. He adapted very well. I think it's just that momentum thing. You have to be a momentum racer, and Chuck isn't. At least he wasn't with a modified, but he's learned it faster than most. But I mean, Stu Friesen and Mike Mahaney, and you know, Mike's going to run with us all full time this year, and I know what, you know, Chuck Emery has in those motors, and it's nothing crazy. But the difference is he sets a car up to really roll and really be able to maintain momentum, and that is totally the secret. Some guys are good at momentum, some guys aren't, and you know, that's basically long and short of it. You got to figure out the momentum stuff, and I think modifieds have gotten to be more momentum than it was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, it was a lot of stop and go. There wasn't a lot of finesse. Now, I mean, you know, you got Matt and Stu, and they're just finesse drivers, and it's just... Well,
the finesse thing is also, I think, can tie it back a little bit to that head combination, too.
Absolutely.
Because those modified cars way back, it was so raw. I mean, it was just raw. Now with those new heads that are on there, it smoothed out the power so that you can manage it.
Right.
And you
now,
can
now the big blocks run like a small block. And in my own car, for a period of time at Wheat Sport, I ran one of Bob Faust's small blocks in my own car, and it was the easiest driving car ever. I ran top 5, I think, for 4 weeks straight against the best in the business with a small block. And again, we all know small blocks run well at Wheat Sport, but it's because it was drivable,
especially
it was smooth,
in August,
right? And it was smooth, and you know, and then I've had big blocks Canandaigua, where once you got to the starter stand, you had to dump out of the throttle fast because you knew that power curve was hitting, and when that thing hit, it would light it up at the starter stand. Right. So I mean, they were violent, you know. But back then we had tracks that required, you know, some of that violence because, you know, the tracks were heavy. And we were stop and go a lot, and when you're stop and go, you need it to get going again. Obviously, where now it's just it's almost like, you know, these big blocks are running like small blocks, and you just keep the momentum up, and they're nice and drivable. Tracks are glass, and everybody, you know, and that's the change, you know. So, yeah.
So with that transition where the cars are more drivable, and you're looking at the 360 side of things versus what it was with stop and go way back. Do you find that you like tracks that you used to hate now?
Yes. Like Canandaigua, I used to love it with a modified. I can't stand it with my sprint car because, again, it's all momentum there.
Sure.
And then, you know, Brewerton, I couldn't stand it with a modified. I love it. But, you know, there's more tracks that I've been to now that I like where some of my fellow sprint car guys can't stand. And it's the stop and go stuff. It's the Thunder Mountain. It's, you know, these places where, you know, RPM up in Canada, you've probably never been there, but it's a really cool place. Tiny little place, and it's a stop and go track. And I'm tough there. I'm tough at Thunder Mountain. But you get to some of the, you know, big momentum stuff, and you know, Fonda I'm okay, but Canandaigua I can't. I haven't been able to get it. I got thousands of laps Canandaigua, and I can't get it figured out with a sprint car.
How do you do at Woodhull?
Woodhull, I ran there one time, and I was actually talking to Mike. I'm excited to go back. It's the first time I've ever been there, and again, that's a stop and go place. I mean, the corners are, you know, you put a stoplight in the middle of the corner, and I had a good time there. You know what I mean? And we ran pretty well. But yeah, the stop and go stuff, I got it figured out. I just got to get this damn momentum stuff nailed before I, you know, get too old and quit.
What's the season going to look like this year?
I'll run the full ESS tour. I didn't run the Canandaigua races last year for personal reasons, but I'll run the full deal this year, and then I'll probably run 3 or 4 of Mike's shows when you know, obviously when they don't conflict. I'm putting a wingless car together.
Mike's being CRSA shows?
No, the Patriot stuff.
Okay.
The 360 stuff.
I'm with you.
And then I'm going to run some wingless stuff. Might run the deal at Wheat Sport, and then some of the races in PA when they make the swing. I'll put a separate car together just for that. Again, the wingless stuff suits me more than the wing stuff at the moment.
So what does that drive more like for reference? The wingless car.
It runs like a really bad modified. The best way I can describe it. Okay. It runs like a real like the worst handling modified you ever had, you know. And everybody runs into those nights where the car, you know, there's something just isn't, you know, you missed it. That's what it feels like, because you got no downforce. Car's violent. Each lap you don't know what it's going to want to do.
Well, that sounds horrible.
It is. Well, which is why you saw 4 or 5 guys in the trees at Wheat Sport there. True. But it was one of the most fun races I've ever had in my life. You know, barring the first lap thing I had going on.
When you saw those guys in the trees off turn 1, did you look at him and be like, been there?
Yeah. Oh, I've been there. Yeah, I've been down in turn 1 with a modified a few times. But yeah, and honestly, those guys that put them up in the trees were guys that had wingless experience. You know, if you looked at the top 5, 6 guys that finished that night, we were all wing guys that had done it for the first time.
Wingless experience is one thing, but winged experience at Weedsport is definitely another.
Yeah, turn 1 is tough with anything there. You know, so, but you know, we'll see. You know, it's hopefully it'll be a good season. You know, I'll have 2 complete cars, 2 complete motors. You know, so I can race a little different knowing I have a complete backup this year, where I have, you know, in all my racing career I've never had a second car sitting there. So when you race 3 nights a week, night 1 you can kind of run 70%, night 2 maybe 85, and then night 3 you can let it go. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's just kind of is what it is when you're racing on a small budget and own all your own stuff, you know. So
what's next? I mean, modified seemed like it was it, and then you never imagined being in a sprint car, and now the sprint car thing's going well.
I mean, I would still, I say I'd never get another modified. I don't really want to own another modified, but I would love to run 5 or 6 races a year still. Yeah. You know, some of the big, you know, I miss, you know, Victoria, and I miss, you know, running what is now Oswego, but you know, I miss running some of the big races. I miss the 200 lappers at Rolling Wheels. You know,
I think everybody misses that. Yeah. And by Victoria, you mean?
And it was the worst race ever.
It was
Sunday afternoon, horrible.
It was miserable.
But it was an event, and it was fun.
You couldn't see the track during hot laps.
Never. And you should try starting 5th, 6th row. Forget it.
Not interested. No, I am far more content writing about it because no one can tell me if it did or didn't happen in the cloud.
Yeah. So I mean, I miss a modified, and I keep saying I'd never own another one, and you know, I think my Highside business would have to get a lot bigger for me to get another one just to run those 4 or 5 races a year. But I mean, I still miss it to a point. There's a lot I don't miss about it, but you know, the sprint car world is just, you know, the people are very close because you tour together.
Sure.
So, you know, at the end of the night, it doesn't matter what happened on a racetrack. We're all passing a plate around and, you know, having a beer and having a good time, and everybody gets along so well, and it's just, you know, it's a good deal. So, you know, you never know. You know, then I says, well, maybe I get, you know, late model or something and play around with that. But I'm 48.
No, hang on, no, you can't get a late model and play around with that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it'll happen, but I've thought about it.
I think it's a great idea.
You know, and you know, I have some places on my bucket list I still want. I mean, you know, I have no business going to Eldora or Knoxville with a sprint car, but I think before I retire someday, I just got to do it once, and just so I can check it off and retire and be happy.
Go do Eldora on the way back through, hit Sharon.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, it's just one of those things. Before I'm done, you know, like Chuck right now he's kind of on his bucket list tour, really. You know, the past couple of years, he's doing things he's never been able to do. You know, he wants to win a race at Williams Grove, so he's going to be going to a lot of those races whenever he can. He's been to Knoxville, been to Eldora, but you know, he's trying to check some things off that he wants to do in his racing career. So you know, that's basically what I want to do. You know, once I'm done, I keep saying another year. I could be the red farmer that won't stop at 80 some years old. I don't know. But you know, my wife wants a beach house, and I've promised her she'll get it someday, whether it's, you know, a year from now or 10. But you know, it is what it is. I mean, you know, you've been doing it for so long, it's so hard to get away. And you know, as long as you still enjoy it, you know, I'm still stuck in. You know.
Yeah, Jason's talking about once you get the needle and you break it off.
Dude, that's really what it is, and it's horrible. But I probably would have had a lot easier time getting off some other kind of habit, but it is what it is.
If you walk away from racing, you just stop driving in one form or another, what are you going to do with Highside?
I'll stay involved somehow. I mean, I'll keep my Highside business no matter what. Though I'll be honest, I've been offered a couple big suit companies have offered to buy my company. And I'm not ready for that yet. I've put a good dent in quite a few of the companies out there, which is cool. But no, it's been growing, and again, I don't spend a lot of my time focusing on this market local, because in my mind I should be able to do well in my own market. But I have tons of suits in California and Georgia and North Dakota. I mean, some places that, you know, I don't know how I ever got there, but I'm there. Right. But we do very well here. I think, God, I've done 10 here today. So I mean, I
saw you were measuring somebody as we were talking.
Unbelievable. I mean, I think I did 3 or 4 last year here at this show for the weekend. I've already, you know, doubled that. So it's nice seeing people in this mall again. You know, it's just great.
Is it just racewear, or is it team apparel too, like custom-made T-shirts, polo shirts?
I don't do T-shirts and stuff. What I pretty much do is just suits. I do shoes, do gloves. I've got my own helmet line, which I'm kind of upset about. There's a truck in Syracuse with 50 of my brand new helmets off the factory line that I couldn't get here because of the weather yesterday messed it up.
Right.
So I got 50 helmets sitting there that I wanted to have here. I do gloves, and then I do dye sublimated stuff. You know, you see those hoodies that they have on, and you know, the crew shirts, and that's pretty much where I'm trying to stick.
So this is sublimated you got right here?
This one's not. The sweatshirts that they have are all dye subbed. Then you see some crew shirts over on the wall.
They start white, or can you sublimate on black?
They start white.
They do start white.
Yeah, they start white. So you can pretty much hit any color you really want. You know, those are fairly expensive, but they're pretty amazing sweatshirts. And then the crew shirts and stuff.
Somebody wants them, they'll pay for it.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. But you know, I'm just trying to stick with that. I think we do what I have. I think we do really well on. So I would rather just stay with what I'm doing. I mean, I was in the sign business. I was in the T-shirt business. You know, and that's all in good. You know, I letter my own race cars now, and that's all I want to do. You know, but as far as the regular T-shirts and stuff go, you know, the margins weren't quite there enough for me to have a go at it. Sure. So I kind of didn't. I went a different direction. But you know, the suit business has been really good. That's what I think. My 3rd year, and we've pretty much doubled business every year since I've started.
That's awesome. Congratulations. That's great.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. And I'll have this. You know, and if not, you know, I'll hand it off to somebody at some point in time. But you know, it's growing pretty well. So, and then, you know, I've got aspirations to do promoting and stuff at some point in my life when I'm done, like every racer does.
Sure.
You know, so we'll see. You know, I'm not going away from racing, you know, ever. But I just don't know whether I'm going to race another year, 2, 5, or 10.
You could walk away from racing. It's going to suck you back in.
Well, it did. I mean, I got out of the big block, and I was gone for a year and a half, 2 years. I think I ran 2-3 times a year for some guys down Southern Tier and stuff, you know. But I was good. I drank my beer next to my pool, and I was fine.
Right.
And then I got kind of sucked into running a sprint car one night, and then I was done.
Yep.
You know, back in it again.
Yep.
You
Off
know,
it broke.
So, yeah. But you know, again, everybody says, "Oh, you'll get in a sprint car and you'll have 5 of them," and I'm like, "Yeah, no." You know, all my years of running modifieds, I don't think I ever had. I was telling Erik Karlsen earlier, I don't think I've ever had a complete front axle ready to go to drop in spare. Never. I don't think I ever had a spare rear end. And in a sprint car, I walk around my shop, I've got 5 complete front ends. I got 4 frames sitting there. I got 4 rear ends. I could put 4 or 5 cars together. I'm like, how did this happen in 3-year period of time?
Yeah.
You know, but it's just, you know, the sprint car stuff. There's so many sprint cars out there across the country that you can get parts for pennies on the dollar if you buy used stuff. Or with a modified, it seemed like all of us ran it until it was garbage. And it was good to nobody after that.
Yes.
So, you know, it's a little more affordable. You know, again, you either bring them home in a box or without a scratch, and you hope that you can do 90% of the time without putting a scratch on it.
Sure.
So, you know, it all evens out. And, you know, for me, it's a more affordable race, you know, way to go racing and keep into it, you know. And I'm good with running 25, 30 races a year versus the 90-some that we did at one point.
Right.
You know, I'm done with that. I don't want to go back.
Is there anybody that you wanted to make mention of? I see you got some folks that are starting to line up over there at the booth. Anybody that you want to make mention of that's helping keep the car out there? I know a lot of the stuff is done at home.
You know, I own it, sponsor it, and drive it, and work on it. But you know, I've got you know, I'm lucky that I got 2 or 3 of the guys that were with me in the early '90s that are starting to come back. They kind of went off, did their family thing, and now they ended this season. They started coming back, which to me said, boy, maybe I could stick around a little while if they're coming back, because it was cool. But you know, I got you know, Walker Filters helps us out. I'm a dealer for Walker Filter Systems, which is cool. Gosh, let me think of who else I even got going. You know, my father helps a ton with you know, helping us with motor bills and stuff like that. And
sure.
I switched to Eagle chassis this year, mainly because I sell suits to everybody that works at Eagle.
Yeah.
Everybody, almost all of them. I mean, it's unbelievable how quick I've grown in that office. And what's really ironic is Speedway owns Eagle, and Speedway sells suits out of their catalog, and all the guys buy mine, which makes me proud. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
You know, and they do all, you know, basically all their official suits are bought through me now. So all their customers get my info. So I sell a lot of the Eagle branded stuff to them. So they've been, you know, really helpful. DMY Motors out of Pennsylvania have been big with us, and so, you know, just you know, the same group. My wife puts up a lot of crap. She wishes I would quit, but she would never tell me that.
Right.
And she's there every second of the day, helping out and supportive. So, you know, my daughters as well, so here in Sydney. So, you know, as long as I can keep them in the hand of cards, we'll keep playing.
I just can't get past the struggles that you had with your modified.
Yeah.
To now you fast forward a very short time later.
Yeah.
And
it's crazy.
You're selling all of the Eagle office workers their fire suits.
Every one of them. Yeah. No, it's, you know, that's probably half of why I'd love to go back running mods now a little bit, because I know that you can, you know, now I get back in a mod, you know, if you drove it like a sprint car, you're a lot faster.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, we'll see. You know, I've had a few calls on doing, you know, sportsman stuff again. I really don't want to go back there, but you know, we'll see. I'd like to get back in a big block a few times.
Awesome.
We'll see.
Well, I hope you have a great show.
Thanks,
the
man.
rest of the show.
I appreciate it.
We'll catch up with you in Syracuse next week, right?
I won't be there.
No.
Yeah, personal stuff.
I got you.
Personal
Say
stuff.
No more.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you know,
back. We're good.
Yeah, I didn't do the fall show, and I won't do the spring show, just because of management.
Yep. No worries.
Nothing to do with that.
No worries.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, thank you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
I want you to come on the show again.
Well, I believe it or not, I travel for work a lot, so I'm listening all the time when I'm going down the road. So I listen to all the old podcasts and stuff. I'm a podcast junkie.
Well,
so yeah,
well,
that's
thank
cool.
you.
I appreciate it. Thanks you so much.
All right, man. For sure. We'll talk soon.
We will.
There goes Dave Axton with Highside Racewear. Good to have him on the show. And as you can see, Erik Karlsen's car still hanging out behind us. Lee Sanders joined us for a little bit. We had Erik Karlsen over here. Alicia, she took a pass on it all the same. Appreciate the interest though. That is going to do it for the 31st lap here from Finger Lakes Speedworld. Finally found some power, able to get the show off the ground and to you. We will be back with you again here in 2 weeks. Right now, pull the schedule up again just to double check it. We will not be on the 8th. Final round is going to be on the 8th. We will not be on in the 15th. And because the Crash Course podcast is going to be traveling to Topeka. And then on the 22nd, it's going to be another final round. So we're not going to be back in the coming weeks. It's going to be until the 29th of March. Our 31st lap is back on the air. But we'll have some stuff lined up. And we'll be looking at the start of the racing season, sitting right around the corner. We'll recap Syracuse, all that and more. We appreciate everybody from Finger Lakes Speedworld giving us a chance to come on and be part of this. That is going to do it for us until we get back on the air on the 29th, back at the North Park building at Academy Square. We'll see everybody then. Here, Alicia, she took a pass.